All right, so we have handsome Mr. Zeus. Ready, Sarah? So what I wanted to warm up with were some sort of loose leash walking exercises. So, and you'll have to excuse my voice, I did lose it Sunday through Monday, and then it was sort of not so great on Tuesday, and it got a little bit better Wednesday, and today it's still a little bit sad, but it's doable. So sorry if it's a bit scratchy and I get the darn tickles again. So with Mr. Z, we're just warming up with a couple little find-its just to get in the groove with the handsome guy, just getting him up and moving back and forth from the environment back to me. So I have 3 targets out on the floor. I'm just using, some livestock feed bowls that are upside down. I know you guys have seen those in class when we used to do our step up and paws up. So like where your babe is using it as a platform to put their front feet on. Again, that can be really helpful for front end and hind end awareness. And also doing like turning and pivoting on those bowls can be also helpful. For right now, what I wanted to warm up with was working some of these targets on the floor and then practice moving in and around them. So we're going to do one where we're using all 3 bowls. The other exercise will be more like a figure 8. So you're going to be using like the 2 end bowls to create like a figure 8 sort of figure. I don't know. My brain has melted today, so I'm so sorry. So for Mr. Handsome, it's probably all the lovely cough medicine, though it is daytime medicine, so I should be more functional. But anyway, back to Mr. Z. So if Zeus tends to work on your left side versus your right side, I would pick the side in which your babe is going to be on the outer part of you. And then, for example, the bowl will be on your side. So if, let's say, we're going to start off, typically I start at one side, move my way down. If you prefer one end versus the other, again, there's no real right or wrong. It's more just whatever feels comfortable. So if I'm going to have Mr. Z on my left side, I like to start off with the bowl on the right side of me. So if you guys prefer working him on the right side, you would just switch. So for example, you're going to have 3 can't talk today, 3 items on the floor. Could be as simple as, for example, toys that you have that are his, as long as he doesn't go and grab them and move them around too much. But the way you're going to start this off is, if this was cones or anything else, you could go ahead and again have 3 in a row. I kind of have around roughly 7 of my feet between each bowl. Right now I'm just feeding him for hanging out with me. So the way this is going to start is you're going to start off by your first bowl here, like bowl number 1, bowl number 2, bowl number 3. So with Mr. Z, he says he's an eager man. So I'm just going to warm him up. I'm going to start again because he's a big boy. So lining him up right here next to the wall is a little bit challenging for him because he's a long gentleman. So I'm going to have my food on my left side with the left, again, the dog on my left leg as well. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to start moving forward, and we're going to go from the first bowl all the way to the third bowl. So we're going to go, ready with me, or let's go. We're going to walk. We're going to go ahead and intermittently feed throughout the pattern. So like moving around the environment with these things on the floor. He's like, hold on, can't chew and walk. I know that was one of his littler, crunchier kibbles, or big crunchy kibbles, I should say. His are big boy kibbles. So we did our full lap around from bowl 1 to bowl 3. The way you're going to change it up is now we're going to go, as opposed to all the way to the end, we're going to go to the middle bowl and then do a smaller loop and then do the last, again, this end, which would be where you first started, as your last bowl to loop around. So I'm going to go ahead and with me, we'll go ahead and move forward. We would then loop around our second bowl here, and I might feed him throughout that behavior. He says chewing and walking is kind of hard. And then our last one would be our starting point. So we're going to go ahead and move around. And right now I am just luring him with my hand. As he becomes more refined and more in tune with your movement and he gets more comfortable, you'd fade out the food out of your hand as that lure. So let's say he did a really good job. We're going to try to do that whole pattern once again. I'm just going to reboot him because we're up against this wall so we can line up this handsome man right next to my left side. And again, this could be on the right side if you prefer, whatever works. So I'm going to get his attention on his sniffer. We're going to start moving. Nice. And we're going to loop around this first lovely one right here at the very end. Get him up and moving. So you'll see that right now he is always looping around, for example, the outer part of the bowl or the target. It could be cones, whatever you'd like to use. In the beginning, I find this is much easier to help him loop around the item than to have you move into him and try to get him to be careful where you're going so you don't trip up on each other. Nice. So right there, we did this last little circle. So if you're ever feeling dizzy, always take a break. If you're looking down a lot, I do find it's helpful to pick a focal point and walk towards it. Let's say now I'm going to set up the dog where he is still on my left side, but I'm going to have him be on the side of the bulls. So the bulls will be on his left side. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start here. We're going to move forward. So this one's a little bit more challenging because now the puppy has to slow down as you make that corner and see if he can stay. And again, it's okay if he stops to chew. But you want to see, is the puppy able to slow down and notice you're turning? And then if, for example, your puppy had no idea you're about to slow down, you could say his name. You could get him to do a little check-in and feed for those responses. So right now, Mr. Z is doing a really nice job moving around the bowl. I know that's probably a sharper corner than I should have made it for him. I keep forgetting how long he is. He just keeps growing. So again, we're going to start this once more. We're going to do, again, the full lap down this end. See if I can get his focus on me. Nice job, Zeusy. And then again, we're going to bring our way all the way back to the starting point. He's like, how about the bulls? If he's a little bit of a drunken sailor, I might help him by luring him around. We're going to, again, go now to the second bull. If I were to lose him, I could regain his focus by showing him my lure hand and then see if I can get him to hone in on me. Ready? And then start again. And now we would do the smallest little circle. Nice. Good job. So it does require a little bit of finesse where both you and him are trying to sync up your movement or your gait and work through some of these little distractions and I might push this forward a little bit, through the difficulty that is keeping attention on you while also moving through the environment. And then while also trying to turn sometimes into your space and then other times out of your space. So when working with this pattern, again, it's up to you guys. You could use whatever, items on the floor that you would like. I'm going to start him again, where I'm going to have him start off on my left side. He's so long, we're going to set him up with a little bit of a loop. So let's say starting off, it's easier for you to move around the bowls, like where the bowl is on the inside of you, and then the puppy's on the outside. Start that way, and then build into the other exercise where he's on the opposite. So again, we're going to go with me, or let's go. We're going to move forward. Nice. He's just chewing and walking hard. And then again, we're going to make our way all the way back down to our first starting bowl. Nice. Ready? So again, we're going to start again, and we're going to now go to our second bowl. Yes. Nice. I know it's so hard to chew and walk. And two, I do try to have his little tidbits broken up into little pieces. But you can see how sometimes by making sort of patterns or games out of your walking together, it can start to create more engagement. So you'll see that he's a lot more interested in what I have going on because it's kind of not as boring as going from point A to point B. So I'm going to go ahead and now, I put him on my opposite side. I know he sometimes works left or right, so I'm going to bring him back to my other left side. Good job. He's a little bit of a drunken sailor. So now this time we're going to start with the bowls on his side, which means I'm going to be moving into his space versus him moving around mine. So again, we're going to go ahead and start going. Ready with me? Nice. Yes. So handsome. Nice. So again, I'm feeding as often as I need to keep the engagement on me, but also to make this pattern or this concept that we're working on seem valuable from his perspective. So most puppies don't find weird loose leash walking exercises to be that exciting. So I'm trying to build up value in the weirdness that is our experiences or expectations, I should say, of the babes. Nice. So right there, he did a very nice job rotating through all the different sections. So this one again involves the 3 targets, and you kind of make your way down the bowls to then do 3 loops. So again, like your first loop, you start on one end of this line, and either the babe is on the outside of you or they're on the inside of the bowl. And then again, one is easier than the other for the dogs typically and for us, because if you're turning into them and they don't know you're about to turn, a lot of dogs crash into our legs, or we might bump into them or trip on them. So I would really recommend to practice this in a very soft and easy environment, like in your home. This could be down a hallway from the living room to the kitchen. It doesn't have to be such big spaces. Of course, he is a longer gentleman, so you do want to have enough room where you guys can make a comfortable circle and feel like you could complete it together. So the other exercise would be working figure eights. So figure eights can be helpful because you're helping him rotate and move around items, but at the same time slowing or extending his walk to be with you and paying attention. So we're going to go ahead and set him up again back to the left side. It could be the right side. So I frankly don't care. It's whatever works well for you guys, like we mentioned. So right here, I'm just feeding him for being by my left side, just building up value and being next to me. Nice. So what I'm going to try and do is we're going to do a bit with a figure eight. So figure eights are nice because not like the other previous exercise where the dog is either always on one side and then moving around the bowls, or is on the other side and moving into the bowls. This one you'd be flip-flopping. So at one point he is going towards it, another moment he's going away from it. So we're going to set him up again because he wiggled a little bit, so no worries. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with moving maybe to the right around this bowl and then do the opposite, and we'll rotate and then we'll swap. So again, I'm going to get his attention. I'd say like with me or let's go. And we're going to go ahead and create our little figure eight and loop around our bowl here. He's like, hold on, chewing is so tricky. I know it's hard when their little treats are round. He doesn't swallow them whole, which is fine. Nice. Gorgeous. Ready? So again, I'm using my hand sort of to help him hone in on me. Nice. Yes. Oh, we lost one. Find it. Good job. Sometimes we drop our snacks. Ready? So again, just getting them up and wiggling, because I know with the yucky winter weather, it's sometimes really hard to get out and like go do things if it's icy or cold and slippery. So these could be great ways to build in some more of this nice engagement and work this focus on you while also creating some movement and some of this lovely loose leash walking practice. Ready? He says, maybe I need a drink. Ready? Good job. Nice. Gorgeous. So using some easy targets that you might have lying around in the home. It could be, as simple as shoes. It could be whatever you want as just a visual for you guys. You could do this with no visuals, but I find it's really helpful for the dogs and for us because we might start to lose track as to where we are and how fast we're going and where we are in relation to the environment. So let's say now this time I'm going to bring him again. He's going to be on the same side as the bowl. Not that you have to flip it for the figure eight behavior or the skill, but I feel like sometimes it can be helpful because you're just practicing on either side. So again, we're going to go ahead and say with me or let's go, whatever slogan. It could be heel. And you're just going to see if you can keep his interest on you as you're moving around the environment. Two, since he's got such a big, long body, I would recommend to definitely have enough space between your targets so it's not too challenging for this handsome guy. He's like, oh my gosh, we dropped a crumb. Good job. So, but you can see he starts to slow down because he gets a little tired. Ready, Zeus? Nice. Good job checking in. But if, let's say, your babe is getting a little fatigued, take a break. Don't keep rocking something to the point where they don't want to participate. If they're finding it really challenging, and again, sorry, I'm cough drop again. If they're finding something really challenging, break it down into smaller steps. So maybe instead of doing all 3 bowls, you just do the 2 end bowls, and you may work with that first exercise we did earlier, where if it's too challenging to do smaller and smaller loops, just do bigger ones. So again, we could go into walking and moving around. So here's our first little loop. And we could feed around that little bend and then see if we can keep walking and chewing is so hard. And then we can keep on moving. Nice. So you could always just do the 2. He's like, almost done. Good job. It's so funny that he has to take a pause to chew. It's kind of impressive. Most of the babes just swallow everything whole. Nice. And then maybe they're getting a little tired. So maybe you throw in a little bit where you slow down, you stop. If he stops with you, feed him for that. So sometimes it's almost like Simon says, like you could extend your gait, you could slow it down. Like I sometimes like to, and again, even if I'm not going to use the bowls, I'm going to just cut through. What if I slow down? Will he slow down with me? And I could feed him for that little pause and then continue. Ready? Zeus? Nice. Because it's almost like Simon says, I don't care if he wants to sit or not right now, because maybe going and sitting over and over becomes a bit tiring. So, but as long as he slows down and pauses with me, that's perfect. Nice. So he's starting to realize that if I pay attention to crazy snack lady, good things happen. Ready? Good job, Zeus. What a brilliant man. Yes. So, but you could again take a break from these, and you could also work on, your paws up or step up. If you've got targets that you can use his front feet on, you could also throw in a little bit with spinning or twirling. So for a lot of dogs that are sometimes clumsy, no offense to him, he doesn't know he has like 4 legs, and sometimes he's a bit awkward, but he is growing into himself quite nice. Is you may also find getting him comfortable realizing he's got a front end and a hind end. So that could be, for example, working spins or twirl, depending on which direction. So it could be great for conditioning. So you could do like a spin, could be one direction. Nice. And then your twirl could be the opposite. So again, if he was going that direction for spin, then twirl could be the opposite. And even if right now he's just being lured into those sort of concepts, perfectly fine. He's never really done them before. I want him to find that it seems, cool or easy to do the skills. Ready? We'll do another little find it. Good job, sir. He's so brilliant. What a smart man. Ready? You want to do another one? So with our handsome guy, maybe we'll do a little bit with that paws up. I do want to, though, make the bowl a bit more durable. One of mine has seen better days and it's cracked a little bit. But since he is a taller gentleman, good job, Sarah. We'll do another little find it. And he's gotten so much bigger, I want to make sure that the bowl doesn't sink on him. So that one's a little bit flimsier because it's only got the one layer. So if you're still working with paws up and step up, remember the benefits to this exercise is to figure out he's got how to use that front end. But then also it could be great for targeting going to the vet and going on the scale, getting into a vehicle, doing, maybe for example, going onto a target, like you have to go across a small stream. And maybe for example, there could be like a piece of wood and your babe has to know where to put their front and their back end without falling off that plank. You almost had it. So we may find for Mr. Z is where he's like, where'd it go? We did find it. He's like, it's lost. But he's pretty good about finding them in general. But you may find for this handsome guy working as he's going through, puppyhood into adolescence. So paws up. We'll see if we can rock it. So close. Paws up. He's like, where are my feet? Oh, there they are. Nice job. So if in the beginning we have to lure him because he hasn't worked it in a while or he's not as, savvy with it, ready, find it, then you can definitely start off with luring. But remember, we want to fade it out, which means that we're not going to always have it in our hand to use as the way to get that focus. So as he gets more comfortable, ready, as you see, we'd have our hand empty, we'd go paws up. Yes, and then we would feed right after. So the food wasn't presented first, it was given for after the behavior or during the behavior is happening. So he's getting his paycheck for doing his hard work, but it was going from paycheck before it was maybe almost bribe, where I don't love the wordage, but the bribe is given first. Ready? Pause up. And when you do it that way, this is where a lot of folks will tell me, oh, my dog only does it when I've got the food on me or the food is presented first, like to their nose. That typically means that we never feed it out the lure, which is how you use the food to make the behavior happen. So we want, you almost had it. So we want him to go from the food is presented first and now the food is given after. So we go paws up, yes. And then we'd mark that behavior with a click or a yes. And markers, again, lets your puppy know for why they're getting that reinforcement in the sense of food for this one. So with me, the YES always equals here comes a food reinforcement, where typically good equals here comes a toy reinforcement. So, but it's whatever makes sense to you guys. I wouldn't mix everything up because then it does get a little confusing for the dog. I sometimes will say like nice, Oh, find it. When my dog has done something that I find is nice, or technically like, like what I was hoping for, but I'm not going to be paying them with a reinforcement. So ready, Zeus? So I might do another little paws up. Yes, brilliant boy, good job. He remembers from class. What a brilliant man. So he's doing a really nice job. We'll maybe do one more and then we'll call it a day for this exercise and we'll go work a few more skills. He's doing a really good job. Ready? Paws up. Yes. Pause up can also be a great exercise for redirection. So, like, let's say your babe is getting too excited or a little overwhelmed or whatever it might be, he's going for a drink. In that situation, getting your babe to go into a target mode can give them an outlet other than the thing they were hoping to get to. So, I know we were discussing, like, meeting and greeting with family members or friends that come to visit. Maybe he does really well with pause up or step up. You could throw in a few targets and practice that as the company's coming in. I know it sounds kind of dorky, but it can be really nice to think, well, what would I rather have my dog do versus him either wailing or sort of being sad off in the distance, being separated. Ready? Pause up. Yes, what a brilliant boy. And then maybe going into pause up is better than jumping on grandma. So there's moments where think of what would I rather replace my dog's behavior that I maybe don't love with something I would prefer. Yes, what a good boy. You're so smart. So right here he's just getting a little jackpot again, which is where he gets several, one little snack after another versus a handful or one snack. Oh, he's like, oh my goodness, how's that? Oh, that's very pretty. So, but we'll give him a little breather. He's doing a really, really nice job. He looks adorable in his little belly shirt because I know he just keeps growing. And of course, he's a boy. We've got to make sure we don't make messes. But he did so, so nice. Good job, Zeusy. You handsome man.